Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud. Today we're going to be talking about the astrology of 2026. I hope that you're having a wonderful new year out there. We're going to be going on kind of a big overview of the astrology of the year. We're going to get into some details, but we're going to kind of take a 30,000-foot viewpoint of all the different transits that are going on, the most important ones, I guess. We'll kind of take you through a timeline through each of the months and see if we can wrap our heads around what might be coming in the year ahead. I hope that you're doing well out there. Please let me know if you're here in the chat. Let me know where you're stopping in from. It's always nice to see your smiling faces. And yeah, did I miss anything when I was gone last week? There's anything going on in the news or anything? I don't know. It's wild times, friends. So we'll try to make sense of all of it and see if we can find some peace and some centeredness within the chaos of all the changes going on around us. So, astrology of 2026. A couple announcements before we dive into all of the astrological ins and outs of all the things that are going on. You can find me over at spencermichaud.com. I have all sorts of readings, 2026 offerings. Little secret, they're the same as 2025 offerings for the moment. We'll see if they get updated here and there, but they're pretty good offerings. So if there's some things that you need help with astrologically, if you want me to look at your chart, if you want me to help you to navigate some of these choppy waters that many of us are experiencing, I would be happy to do so. I love working with you on a one-on-one basis. I love doing astrological tutoring. I teach classes. You can find all of that stuff over at spencermichaud.com. Click on the Book Now button to book a session today. Okay, you can also find me at the store at spencermichaud.com, where I have a number of pre-recorded webinars, along with my partner, Tanya Andrews of Third Coast Mojo. So we have done some collaborations. I've done some solo webinars. You can find all that material over there, especially the Decans webinars, where if you enjoy doing the more specific 10-degree sections of the zodiac, or if you have an interest in the tarot, fixed stars, mythology, you can find all sorts of material. 3 or 4 hour webinars each for each sign, going through all 36 of those decans at the store. Also did this beautiful collaboration with Tanya on the Dignity and Devotion series, where we were talking about the 7 traditional or classical planets and how to craft a ritual practice with them, how to elect magical elections so you can draw the power of those planets down into whatever material is appropriate for you, oils, soaps, etc., talismans. All of that teaching material is available there. And then there's also a webinar called Stars and Cards, where I talk about the connection between tarot and astrology, with a lot of excellent information within that. So I hope that you'll support the channel that way and learn something along the way. And I hope that the information there will serve you well. Speaking of Third Coast Mojo, I have a beautiful partner, Tanya, who has a business where she is doing all sorts of magical elections rooted in root work and the conjure tradition. And she's got all sorts of new stuff for the new year coming ahead, but some really exciting things. Exalted Jupiter material is available now at Third Coast Mojo. That's Jupiter in Cancer, one of the favorite places of Jupiter, where you can bring in abundance, where you can bring peace and order. You can bring all sorts of good fortune, the greater benefic, in a place that it's extremely happy. This is a great election. I've been wearing this material. All sorts of positive things happening when I've been wearing them. So go check that out. She's also got a Magnificent Money sub-series that is a classic conjure formula for bringing in wealth and abundance. There is a Midnight Money soap, limited edition black money soap. It's amazing. And then there's also this beautiful Venus and Taurus Peaceful Home oil. This is one of my favorite ones, honestly. This is one where, we've been navigating a little bit of a different transition with like a situation where Tanya's been home a lot. And we've been getting along really well, being in each other's space, collaborating and keeping things peaceful when it could be more stressful. So I really enjoy this Venus and Taurus Peaceful Home oil. So if you're having any challenges with people in your domestic situation, this is a great thing to smooth things out. So go find her on Etsy, Third Coast Mojo. Great way to support her business and to support us as a team. You can also subscribe to our newsletter. So I have a newsletter where I send out updates each week, where you're getting to find out when I'm going to be going live on YouTube, what classes I'm offering coming up, what offerings Third Coast Mojo is releasing. We have some things in that. I also have a song of the week where we're talking about what kind of music is inspired by the astrology of the moment, and it's a great way to stay in touch. You can also, if you want to support the channel today, purchase a super chat via YouTube, which goes a long way to support the channel. Really appreciate that. Or you can go to buymeacoffee.com, which is a Patreon-like website that helps support the channel, that helps keep the lights on, helps me to get all the subscription services, to do all the production behind the scenes here, to get all the reading material, buy me the gift of time to do this work so we can pay all our bills and things like that. So thank you so much for those of you who have been able to contribute in that way as well. All right. Let's see what we've got going on here. We got some people stopping in the chat. We got some nice friends stopping in. Let's see. Scampostrini is here. Says, "Yay, I made it. Nice to see you, Scampostrini. Welcome. Tell me where you're stopping in from, friend. It's nice to see some new names in the chat here. Love that you're stopping in, and it's maybe your first time potentially. So welcome, and love to see these faces in the chat here. So we've got Oracle with Aisha Rose. Aish Rose says, "Hey there from the UK. Nice to see you." Aish Rose. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of, when I've got the usernames here, something with YouTube has just put people's usernames or their handles rather than their usernames. So sometimes when they're all squished together, I got to parse it out. But welcome, friend, and thank you for joining us from across the pond. I'm always super excited to have my international friends stopping by. We are truly a global community here, and we try to see things from as much of a global perspective as possible. From, even though we have our subjective perspectives, but we try to include all of these different worldly perspectives because we are all one, and we'll talk about that a little bit today as well. Devin Malone is here from Selene's Gateway. Says, "Good afternoon. Tough energy out there." Absolutely. A lot of stuff going on in the collective, a lot of difficulty that we're working through with justice, fairness. A lot of people are on the struggle bus right now, and I will try my best to help maybe make some sense of that, maybe to shine a little bit of light within the darkness, but acknowledging that things are tough, I think, is the first step. And I think that there is definitely some stuff going on that is very difficult to process here in the United States and abroad. Margaret Regis is here. What's up, Margaret? Nice to see you. Margaret here from San Francisco. Been thinking about what you had to say about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in February. Imperialism, indeed. Yeah, we're going to talk about that today. That was one of the things that really stuck out to me with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, especially the first decan of Aries, Margaret, is that decan of Aries talks about colonialism, talks about imperialism, talks about, it's called the Lord of Dominion. It literally shows an image that many people consider Alexander the Great trying to dominate and to acquire new territories and explore, quote unquote, but also to consume, right? So, and we've seen that come back. We saw like inklings and hints of that in early 2025 when Saturn went into Aries for a short period of time. But now that rhetoric has started up again. So we'll talk about that, see if we can make some sense of it. But it's nice to see you here, Margaret. Hope everything's going well your way and that your poetry is taking off, my friend. Taku is here. What's up, Taku? Says, "Hey, Spencer. Hello from snowy Berlin. Happy to join you tonight. Nice to see you, Taku. Hope everything's going well over there across the pond for you in snowy Berlin. Sounds like it's could be fairly beautiful potentially, I hope. So thank you for joining us here today. Javiera is joining us. What's up, Javiera? Nice to see you. Javiera's stopping in from Ontario, I think, Ontario, Canada. So hope you're doing well up there, Javiera, and staying warm. Leanne is here, says, "Hi from the UK. Happy New Year, everyone." What's up, Leanne? Nice to see you. Hope everything's going well your way too, my friend. I'm so honored that all of our European friends are stopping in. I love seeing all of these international friends. So really, it does mean a lot to me that you're joining me. I feel it's super cool to be able to travel kind of virtually with people. So yeah, Devin's joining us from Portland. Hope everything's going well over there in Portland, Devin. I know sometimes Portland has been a little bit of a hotbed of some of these activities where we're trying to stand up for justice, and hope that you're staying safe over there, my friend. K-Wow is joining us, says, "Hey, all from the U.S., North Carolina. Okay, wow, I hope everything's going well your way, my friend. It's always nice to see you here in the chat. All right, let's see. Samantha. Okay, Samantha, nice to see you. I'm an astrologer from Florida, new to the live. Well, welcome, Sam. Hope everything's going well your way. And it's really great to see you here, Samantha. Corinne is here, says hello, Spencer and friends. Nice to see you, Corinne. Nice to see you. Always a beautiful experience having you in the chat and getting your wisdom and your perspective as well. All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for letting me know that you're here. It makes me feel like we're kind of connecting in this community way, and it is always a pleasure. So let's talk about the 2026. We've got some ground to cover today. So it's we've already had some pretty interesting stuff going on for this year, haven't we? So some big picture thoughts. Last year, 2025, we found ourselves in the year of the Chinese snake, the wood snake. It was also a universal 9-year. And both the snake and the 9-year have some significations around shedding old skin, release, letting go of old patterns, of old belief systems, of old forms, old jobs. In our case, in our family, we had a job transition. But this year, coming up, 2026, it's a universal 1 year, and numerologically speaking. The way that you find the universal number in numerology is you add up all those digits and reduce it to a single digit. So we add up 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6, and that brings us to 10. We reduce it to 1. And here we have this universal 1 year, a new start, a lot of new beginnings. And this is really, I think, very powerful because we are dealing with a lot of outer planets changing signs. So we've got Neptune moving into Aries, Saturn moving into Aries. Both of those planets are going to be initiating new things, right? We have Aries, a sign, a cardinal fire sign that talks about making important new starts. Cardinal is something that initiates each season. Cardinal signs do. We're going to be moving into the Chinese year of the fire horse, right? Maybe more movement, fire being a very passionate element rather than wood, where we might require flexibility. Here we have this passionate enthusiasm, for better or for worse, right? It can be trying to spread enthusiasm, and it can also be trying to spread propaganda. So these types of things are going to be present in the Chinese year of the fire horse coming up, which does not actually start until February the 17th. But we should prepare for that. As we've been talking through the beginning of January, we have started this year with a number of kazimis. We actually have a kazimi today. For those of you unfamiliar with that term, it means in the heart. So we have planets that are being renewed in the heart of the sun this week as I'm recording this. Today, as I'm recording on January the 9th, Mars is in the heart of the sun. So a new start for martial activities. Take a good look at your Scorpio and your Aries area or topic of your chart. So we have all these kazimis. We had Venus kazimi earlier in the week. We had Mars kazimi today. We have a Mercury kazimi coming at the end of the month with Mercury kazimi in Aquarius. The song I shared this week was "A Change Is Gonna Come" by Sam Cooke. And this Mercury kazimi at 1 degrees of Aquarius is right on Sam Cooke's natal sun. So a lot of those themes of feeling like we're on the precipice and cusp of change, of seeing our worlds crumble around us and seeing the rise of injustice and things of that nature, and feeling something stirring within us where we're trying to push back. We might want to try to change this world that seems so unjust and unfair, and being able to come together in community to do so, not just as individuals, but in community. That's how we become stronger in these times that can be challenging, where it feels like there's a lot of darkness on the planet right now. So the kazimis are part of January's astrology. Just a couple other things to think about, and then we'll kind of hone in. So we have all these kazimis in January. We have the Chinese year of the fire horse coming. We have Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries at the very beginning of the year. We have eclipses that are going to be happening in Aquarius and Virgo in February and into March. Mercury is going to retrograde in water signs this year. So there's a Mercury retrograde in each of the water signs. Jupiter is going to station direct in March. We have a big Aries conjunction in April. Uranus is going to move into Gemini around that similar time. Jupiter is going to move from Cancer to Leo. We have the nodes changing signs this year as well, with the North Node moving into Aquarius and the South Node into Leo. We have a Saturn retrograde for half of the year, starting at the end of July. Another series of eclipses in Leo and Pisces in August. Pluto out of bounds for a couple months this year. We'll talk about that. A Mars-Saturn square in September. And then the end of the year is really highlighted by a Venus retrograde in Scorpio, and then preparing for a Mars retrograde in very early days of 2027. So this is sort of your big picture view. Biggest things that come to mind to me: Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries, Uranus moving into Gemini, the Venus retrograde at the end of the year. We've got a Mars-Uranus conjunction and on July 4th, the birth date of America. So that one could be a little bit interesting, to say the least. And so let's kind of take you through it month by month. And I've got kind of some notes in front of me. I've got my handy ephemeris from Honeycomb. And one thing I did want to update you with is Honeycomb sent out an update in the early days of January. And they had a bug in the way that they calculate some of their void of course moons. And I love Honeycomb. This is not me taking Honeycomb to task or anything like that. The bugs happen. I think Mercury was retrograde when I ordered all of my planner material. I think it was in Sagittarius, which is its exile. But there are two void of course moons that were missing from January and missing from my forecast in January. And I think they're really important because we talk about Hellenistic void of course moons being quite rare compared to the modern definition of a void of course moon. Basically, a void of course moon is when the moon is not making an aspect for 30 degrees. The modern definition, it will be not making an aspect until the sign changes. In the Hellenistic definition, it's not making an aspect for 30 degrees and crossing sign boundaries. Now, that usually only happens a few times, once every few months, sometimes once every few months. In January, we have 3 void of course, Hellenistic void of course moons throughout the entire month. We've already survived 2 of them, because, well, 4, I guess you could say technically, because there was one from the December 31st to January 2nd. We just experienced a Hellenistic void of course moon from the 4th until the 7th. So this past week, early past week. But we have another void of course moon coming on January 13th, all the way to January the 16th. And then we have our final one, which we did list in our planner, and I did catch on my January kind of prediction show, from the 18th, right after the new moon in Capricorn, to the 22nd of January. So this to me tells me that January is an interesting month for planting seeds, but it's not necessarily a month where we're going to be moving forward significantly. I guess it's a seed planting and then behind the scenes work. It's a month for patience, because I think that when the moon is void, Hellenistic astrologers would say that nothing would come of the matter. So we have all these new like Kazemi moments, but we have to be patient about putting them into practice, right? So for January, just a little like kind of tweak to what we were talking about with January is we need to be patient. We need to take note of these Hellenistic void of course moons so that we don't try to start something important during those void of course periods. Now, that doesn't mean that your life just stops and you can't do anything. It means that so Oracle is asking, what does it mean when the moon is void, right? So we have the definition where the moon is not making an aspect to a traditional planet, okay, one of the 7 traditional planets. So take out Pluto, take out Neptune, take out Uranus. And if the planet isn't making an aspect, it basically means that it's harder for those planetary energies to be pulled down to the physical plane. The ancient philosophers, astrologers, thought that the moon was sort of a manifesting type of planet. It said, we're going to collect the light of these other planets and we're going to help manifest it here on this physical plane. So when the moon is void, it has difficulty manifesting. So if you're into manifestation magic or manifestation thinking or things of that nature, when the moon is void, things may not turn out how we were intending. The thing that I like to do during void of course moons, Hellenistic void of course moons, is I like to clean out clutter. I like to say, you know what, there isn't a lot of stakes here. This is something I've been meaning to do for a long time. Continuing something that's already been started is okay. But cleaning out a clutter, cleaning out a closet, getting rid of stuff, releasing things can be a really good void of course moon activity. So those dates that I gave you for January, we've already gone through December 31st through the 2nd, January 4th through the 7th, but coming up we have January 13th through the 16th, through the early hours of the 16th. Okay, so you'll have to make the adjustment for your time zone because I know we have a lot of European friends today. So if you think about my time zone, it's probably 5 hours behind you. So you're 5 hours later or something of that nature, depending on where you're at. But mid 13th through early 16th. And then the 18th, the end of the day on the 18th, maybe early hours of the 19th through, I would say, midday on the 22nd. Okay. Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it. Javier is asking, is there another moon, void of course moon this weekend? There is not. This weekend is kind of, I guess, all systems go, you could say. The next void of course moon is going to be on Tuesday, the 13th through Friday, the 16th. So you've got a little window. That's really what we've got with like the January. Little windows of productivity mixed in with like maybe some frustration or needing to release some things as well. Ani is here. What's up, Ani? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Javier's getting a haircut. Well, I think this is a good weekend for a haircut. Actually, my partner has been styling my hair for me, giving me haircuts here and there. And she was like, it's a good haircut weekend. You know, it's a good haircut day on Saturday if you want your haircut. I'm like, oh, we'll see. I've got a bunch of reading I got to do, but maybe it'll be a good haircut day for me and hopefully for you. Cheers. Okay. Ani says, I'm considering playing hooky from my hair appointment and hanging out there instead. Oh, nice. Nice. All right. Okay. So January, let's just finish up that because we're going to go through all 12 months here. And I'm just going to pick out the most poignant things that I'm seeing. January is void of course moons, Hellenistic void of course moons, oppositions with Jupiter. So all the planets opposing Jupiter and trying to balance out our need to create structure in our life, Capricorn structure, all these planets in Capricorn, with our need to share, to be generous with our domestic situations with Jupiter in Cancer. We have a number of Cazimis in January. So Venus, Mars, Mercury, all being renewed in the heart of the sun. So pay attention to messages that you hear around this period of time. Also a number of conjunctions with Pluto at the end of the month. So this is our January kind of experience. Neptune ingresses into Aries on January the 26th. So this is pretty big news for outer planet type of experiences. Neptune has a much longer cycle than some of these inner planets. And Neptune generally tells us sort of the way that we are seeking to, according to Liz Green, how we seek redemption, right? How we seek to dissolve into the collective. Sometimes it can show us where our collective illusions are, our collective delusions. I think of Neptune as a solvent energy. So a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about with Saturn and Neptune, we have Saturn is a planet that loves to bring structure. It also brings endings and beginnings, where Neptune is dissolving some of those structures. So we might see the dissolving of structures, of norms, of ways that people would normally play by the rules, which we've already seen moving into this year, where a lot of the norms that keep society functional is some of those things are dissolving under the weight of authoritarianism, the weight of this manifest destiny kind of thing we see coming back, which is very, very frightening for people around the world. So yeah, it's unprecedented times. Let's see. Susanna is here. It says, "Moi, Spencer, it's been a while. It's cold here in Finland. I've caught a flu." Oh, Susanna, I hope that you heal well soon. My daughter got the flu this week as well. It's just going around the globe right now. I think make sure you rest. I've been trying to get my daughter to rest and to take a time out from all of the things she's doing, but sometimes it's hard to rest, especially during Capricorn season, where we feel this pressure to do something productive. But sometimes the most productive thing you can do is to take a break, right? And heal up. All right. So, end of the month, a lot of planets conjoining Pluto and Neptune moving into Aries. If we talk about February, let's go on to February. We're going to start really by understanding that we've got the Chinese year of the fire horse starts in February, right? So we've got this fire horse, an animal that likes to run at great speed, an animal that can carry great burdens, an element, fire, rather than the wood year we were experiencing that is much more inflammatory, right? Is much more like, it's fire is something that can bring life, but it also consumes things. Think of like a volcano where it's very explosive, but from the ashes after the explosion comes new life and new growth. Sometimes a forest fire can help get rid of the old growth so that the new seeds can flourish. So we might have a purification fire type of experience coming through the Chinese year of the fire horse. And that's really leading up to a couple things. We have an eclipse in Aquarius on February the 17th. So if I bring the chart up, let's just start looking through some of these things. What do you say? I'm going to share my screen, and you can see that we've got, here we go. We're going to go to February. We're going to go to this eclipse. Here is the eclipse on February the 17th. So this is going to be an eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius. And this is a decan of Aquarius that is related to getting so frustrated with a situation that you finally just take the leap into the unknown. The other kind of big movement that happens shortly before this eclipse, and you can see it here in the chart, is Saturn moves into Aries. And Saturn's going to be in Aries for the next, I don't know, 2 years or so. We had a preview of it in the beginning of 2025. That's when all the saber rattling was happening with the President of the United States and Greenland. We've just seen in the early weeks of 2026 somewhat of a hostile takeover of Venezuela. We've got other kind of machinations that people are musing about that are very, very difficult to witness. And I think a lot of that can be spoken towards to Saturn in Aries. And this eclipse is going to be hosted by Saturn in Aries, where Saturn is getting very close to conjoining Neptune. So this is one where, unfortunately, some of those themes that we were seeing around, the Monroe Doctrine, manifest destiny, colonialism, trying to seize territory, all of those things are probably going to be in the spotlight rather than just going away, in my opinion. I'm not supportive of those things. I just am kind of using my astrologer brain here and being like, well, if we look at the symbolism, I'll show you the decan associated with Aries 1 in particular. So here is Aries 1. And this is where Saturn and Neptune are hanging out and conjoining. Okay, they're conjoining on February the 20th. So if we think about an eclipse moving right into a Saturn and Neptune conjunction, we're doing it in this Two of Wands decan, right? We have this, oops, let me get rid of that here. Hold on one second. Let's do that. So this decan is called the Lord of Dominion. And Austin Coppock, in his beautiful book, 36 Faces, calls it the Axe. We have its spirit, Adoneus, which is basically a name for Pluto or Hades, who erupts out of the underworld and kidnaps and takes what he desires, and Persephone, the young maiden. This card shows us a figure that many people have attributed to Alexander the Great. And he's holding a globe. He's looking out into which territories he wants to conquer. From a global perspective, we are seeing people within power starting to look out and see what resources they want to consume from other countries and things of that nature. It's a big game that the oligarchs are playing, where to feed their Wendigo mindset, their unending greed, they need to keep consuming. They need to keep, I don't know, making the number go up, I guess you could say. And really, it's part of the way that our financial system works, is that it has to show continuous growth. Now, that's not necessarily the way that nature works. Nature is cyclical. If we had unlimited, unchecked growth in nature, that would cause the systems to collapse. And that's eventually what will happen with this, is these systems that are based on unlimited, unchecked growth, greed, they will collapse. We've seen it happen many, many times over the course of history. Now, what happens after that? That'll be interesting. Some of these things are unprecedented. I will say this, for all of the challenging things that we're going to talk about today, maybe some of the painful things in the collective, some of the divination that I did through the I-Ching and through the animal that I pulled today, there is hope at the end of the horizon, or on the horizon, at the end of the tunnel, I guess you could say. We may just have to get through some bumpy patches. So I wanted to preface what I'm saying here today so that you don't catch the first 10 minutes and then fall into a deep depression and despair, because that is not what my intention is on this channel. So there is some hopeful messaging that is coming. Oracle says, any important notes about the new moon that's coming up? We will talk about the new moon, Oracle. I'm going to do an entire live stream on that new moon, I believe next week. So I will come more to the really granular details around that new moon, but just on a bigger picture type of thoughts. The new moon's in Capricorn 3, and it's related to taking on responsibilities. The challenge with that new moon is that there's a Hellenistic void of course moon right after the new moon. So if you're going to be planting seeds in the Capricorn area of your chart, Oracle, you probably want to wait to take action on them for a few days. If the new moon's on Sunday, wait until Thursday to take any really important actions. So there's patience involved with that. Cosmic Rose is here, says, I love Austin. Yeah, he's great. He's a really intelligent, amazing astrologer, and an excellent writer. This is just something I love about Austin Coppock, is just how poetic his writing is. So he's been somebody who's been a great inspiration to the work that I do here on the channel. And I even though I haven't taken a formal class with him, I consider him one of my teachers, just from the work that he has done. So I definitely owe him a lot in this channel in particular. Cosmic Rose says, no way out but through. Yeah, that's right. And that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to go through some of the choppy waters. We're going to have to go through some of the necessary difficulties to get through to the other side of change. When we've lived with a corrupt system for so long, we can sometimes get a little bit, I don't know if complacent is the right word, but it's sort of like the frog in the boiling water. And when we finally realize that holy shit, we're boiling, we gotta jump out. You gotta get out of that pot, right? And it takes some effort. It takes almost an explosive energy around it. So we'll figure out how to do that as peacefully as possible as a community. That's something that is a value that I have here, is the way that we counteract some of these destructive, authoritarian, greedy type of forces is through generosity, through kindness, through creating community on a local level. We'll talk about some of the things I've been thinking about around that too. Corinne says Greenland will experience a total solar eclipse on August 12th, 2026, with the path of totality crossing eastern Greenland, Blossville Coast, Scoresby Sound, western Iceland, and northern Spain. Yeah, that date is really important. We will spend some time on that date because that eclipse is very important. There's a number of other things happening on that date as well, including Pluto going out of bounds, and I'll talk about that too. But great call on that. The Greenland part has been really all international eyes have been on Greenland. But just talking just generally about this Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, I did a much longer treatment of this on a few months ago with Melissa LaFara of Energetic Principles. So if you want to get a deep dive on the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, check that out. Just to review some of the themes that we talked about, we did talk about the potential for territory annexation because of the themes of this particular decan. We also talked about the need to take risks with this as well, being bound to a feeling that we have to make a new start, that we have to take action. I know in my own personal life, we've had a change of circumstance in our life. My partner was laid off from her job in mid-December. And a lot of our energy has been around, well, how do we restructure our life? How do we create new structure when the other structure has dissolved? And there's kind of just not really a choice. You have to do it, right? As two Taurus moons moving quickly without slow, careful consideration is not really in our wheelhouse. It's something that is uncomfortable for us. But we know that if we want to be able to take care of our responsibilities, we have to take that leap. We have to be courageous. We have to start something new that we've never done before, take a leap into the unknown. And I think a lot of us are going to be experiencing this as we move through 2026, is we're not going to have a choice but to make a new start. We're not going to have a choice but to take action. Time for thinking about things and thinking things through. We've hopefully been getting clear on our values in the end of 2025, on our vision. We have January to kind of plant the seeds, to kind of get clear on what our resources are and what we want to do. And then once we get in February and March, it's go for it o'clock. Like you're not going to have time to think about what all you want to do all the time. There's going to be action and pressure to take action. Now, that doesn't mean we have to be reckless with that action. We can still be considered. But I think that the planetary influence is going to be one that is going to say, you are bound to these new starts. You're bound to be courageous. You might be bound to push back on the powers that be if they are taking advantage of the weak, of the helpless, of people that need our support. So it's a really interesting time. And Saturn in Aries is in its fall. This is a position where Saturn is not necessarily working with the needs of the collective, of fairness in mind. Saturn is a planet that structures our agreements with one another. When Saturn is exalted in Libra, we take into account the needs of everybody. When Saturn's in Aquarius, we take the bigger picture. We have patience. Saturn in Capricorn, these are places where Saturn is comfortable. We are able to build structures. Saturn in Aries says, I want to do what I want to do. I'm building these laws based on one individual's despotic vision, right? Like we have with Alexander the Great here. And we see numerous leaders around the globe, not just in the United States, but in some European countries and in some Latin American countries, every continent. There's probably some kind of despotic leader that has his or their sights set on world domination, right? And they're doing that in service of an individual desire, not in service of their communities. So what do we do when we have leadership that is only self-serving rather than in service of the collective? Well, first of all, we have to separate out fact from fiction. We have to separate out the Neptunian influence through this, because what Neptune will do is it will create this illusion that the leader in question, that is trying to serve their own needs, they will start saying, I am the only authority figure. I am the only salvation that you need, or that is capable of fixing this, whatever this problem that they are gaslighting us into. And the first step through working through the Saturn, Neptune, and Aries conjunction is separating out fact from fiction, is starting to see through the attempts of authoritarian figures to manipulate you into fear, into taking actions that might be against your own best interest, and the illusion that we can only do it as individuals. This was one of the main points I wanted to make with Mel when we were doing our talk. Was, to me, the grandest illusion that Neptune and Aries is going to bring to us is, first of all, the illusion that might makes right, the illusion that violence is the only answer, the illusion that we that if we need help, we are weak. I think that's the greatest illusion of all, that if we don't cooperate with one another, bad things will happen, that we need to be isolated to be strong. That, to me, is not how humanity has operated over thousands and thousands of years. We are a social species. We have so many more examples in indigenous cultures of cooperation with one another, rather than feeling this this extreme isolation and individualism. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't make new starts. That doesn't mean that we can't think of some of our own needs when we're going and working with the collective. But I think that one of the things that we're going to have to avoid with this aspect is scapegoating. I think that one of the ways that authoritarian and fascist regimes start to create fear is through pointing the fingers at a underserved community to distract from their kleptocracy, from their wealth grab. And it's going to be our job as citizens to see through that, to not scapegoat the people that are most vulnerable in our communities, and come together with those people to be able to solve the real problem, which is people that don't have our best interests in mind in leadership positions. So I think this is a really unique aspect, one that sees structures being built but also being dissolved simultaneously, where we may be there may be more militarization of our governments. We've already seen this with paramilitary forces in the United States being injected into various cities. We might see things like martial law. Like these are types of things that Neptune and Aries, Saturn and Aries can bring about. So I think that the real way to work through this is through local action. I've been talking a lot with people in my family and in my community, with my daughter, who's at the age where they're looking around and they're starting to see what's going on in the world, and they start to feel overwhelmed by the weight of the world. And I think that the advice I had for her, so she was talking to me one day about feeling overwhelmed by everything that was happening. And first of all, the first advice I can give with this is that at no other time in history have we been able to experience a crisis 24/7, right? We have these devices in our pockets and on our desks where we can engage with crisis at any time, at 2 a.m., at 3 a.m., in the middle of the afternoon. We can see trauma. We can see crisis happening. And for most of human history, we had moments of crisis, but then we had great expanses of, I don't know if peace is the right word, but not having to live in crisis consciousnness 24/7. So how do we stay informed? How do we stay active without getting overwhelmed with the weight of the world? Because we were never designed to have to deal with this. Our nervous systems weren't designed to deal with all of these crises all the time. So I think connecting and talking with your neighbors, talking with your community, and taking a break from the social medias, taking a break from the news sometimes is very important. You can get the information that you need from talking to your local community. Connect with your neighbors. Connect with the people around you. Don't isolate yourself. I've been making a pretty big effort to get to know my neighbors a lot more than I would have in the past. I've been talking about this on the channel. I feel like the people that need my help are the people right around me, the people in my backyard, the people next door to me. These are the people that I have the ability to help. And that is empowering. A lot of the times we feel disempowered by these grand forces because we feel like we can't make a difference, right? And we can make a difference if we think smaller, if that makes sense, or more locally. So I think this is an important thing to keep in mind as we go forward with this. Let's see. Cosmic Rose says, one of my other phrases is living in the leap. I love it. I love it. And to have access to knowledge of history too. This too shall pass. Compassion for yourself and others. Compassion is the great way to go. We're going to see a grand lack of compassion. This is, I think, one of the great gaslights we're going to be experiencing too, is that if you have compassion for people that are suffering, that you are weak or that it's their fault. It's a lie. And I think that the more we can start pushing against that through our kindness, through our compassion, we are stronger than that. I truly believe that. Corinne says, I feel this. It's really hard to feel centered. And honestly, I feel very scared. And you know what, Corinne? It's okay to feel scared. I think many of us, myself included, have some very justifiable fear that is coming through what we're witnessing day to day on the news with the machinations of different governments around the world, with the unchecked authoritarian power that seems to be increasing by the day. But I do think that we do need to stay centered. We do need to stay grounded and to continue to be aware of what's going on, but continue also to know what we are fighting for, to appreciate the people we have, the people we love, to appreciate the nature around us, to appreciate those quiet moments when we're not confronted directly in that moment with a crisis. And there will be time. Each of us will have our moment. I've had my moments in my life where it was go for it o'clock, and I knew that this was the moment that it was my time to step up and to get involved in a particular situation that I've had in my life, or various situations. But not every situation requires that. So I think that's the balance point that we'll have to find, where how do we hold people in power accountable consistently, but how do we still live our lives and find gratitude and peace and community and kindness and compassion along the way as well. Ani says, since this is a good weekend for hair, I guess I'll go down to the stylist this fine Venus day with the moon in Libra. Maybe he'll agree to fix it for free once I grow it out more. We'll catch the replay. Well, Ani, have a great haircut. And hopefully, this is the thing. Even in times of great upheaval, we still have mundane things that we need to do in our life. We still need to get our hair cut. We still need to go to the grocery store. We still, if we're able to do those things, we still need to do the day-to-day things in life. And even, I think this is something else that we see historically, is when we look at history, we see the grandiose events, but even during these great periods of crisis, people were still trying to live their lives as well as they could. And that's what we will need to do as well. Javier says, counteract the goat with some crab energy. Shell up. There you go. I love it. We're counteracting some of the hardness of Capricorn and Saturn with the hopefully the squishy love and compassion and unconditional love of the moon in Cancer, right? Cosmic Rose says, lately I've been loving Thich Nhat Hanh and Krishnamurti. Ooh, I love, both great philosophers. Krishnamurti in particular has a lot of great ways of coming to the world without, I don't know if it's without expectation, but flowing with the changes, right? Yeah, flowing with those changes. I would say Alan Watts is another great one to think about the wisdom of insecurity and how do we release some of our attachments to the way we think the world is or should be. All right, friends. So let's keep going. So that's our Saturn and Neptune conjunction. February 20th, probably the biggest aspect, I would say, of the year, probably the biggest story of the year. I mean, these are like global tectonic shifting types of aspects. Uh, the world may not be the same after some of these transits. The organization of how we think about the world may not be the same. But as we've been seeing in the chat, this too shall pass. The main thing that we can count on as spirit souls on this material plane is change. And if we flow with the changes and try to make sure that the changes are towards the good and have the most amount of people's best interest in mind, that's all we can do, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the next thing we've got, which is the eclipses that are happening in Aquarius and Virgo, right? We started to touch on the eclipses. So let's go back to that. So here's our eclipse. This is February 17th, third decan Aquarius. Frustration that maybe leads to a parting of ways, right? If we talk about Aquarius 3 here, I don't have a deck and flashcard for this particular one, but it's the Seven of Swords. And the Seven of Swords talks about knowing when to say when, knowing when to quit. The Seven of Wands related to Leo 3 is knowing when to stand your ground, knowing when to fight and defend yourself. Here, this is a really powerful letting go. So this is the beginning of a period of time where we're going to say, you know what? We're fed up with this. We're done with the way this is. We're going to leave behind this way of doing something. And this could be in your personal life. This could be as a collective. But I think a lot of this is going to be hosted by this Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So you may be feeling so frustrated with the way something is that you feel like, I don't have any other choice but to make a new start somewhere in my life, in some area of my life. And that could be really powerful. But I would say the other thing that to consider with Saturn and Neptune and Aries hosting this particular eclipse, try not to burn yourself out. You know, like one of the things that I had a really great talk with a client with similar positions. And one of the things we talked about was trying to pace ourselves. How do we keep the passion burning when we need to have fuel to keep that fire burning? And if we don't have the passion for it, if we burn all the fuel in the very beginning, we're not going to be able to sustain that energy over time. This is one of the dangers of Saturn and Aries, is not being able to sustain our discipline over time. So be very careful when you get feel those feelings of anger, righteous indignation that come up that are valid, but that you might need to sustain over time to create real change in your communities rather than just see it well up, burn out, and then you're too exhausted to do anything about it in the future. Sergey is here. What's up, Sergey? Says, I see the end of July is more significant than the Saturn, Neptune, and February. Fair enough. That is your opinion, friend, and maybe it will be. But this is a pretty important one in the beginning of the year. Cosmic Rose says, one of my life's big lessons has been to make change, my friend. I love it. I love it. Sergey says, the first eclipse opposing my ascendant Mercury by a few arc minutes will be interesting. Yeah, these are going to be big changes for eclipses are always big changes. They're supercharged new and full moons. This new moon, solar eclipse in Aquarius, is going to be conjoining the North Node in Rahu, so an increase of energy, right? When we look at, let's take a look at the one in March, okay? We've got March 3rd here. This is a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo 2, the second decan of Virgo. So really some of the themes with this one. It's a South Node eclipse. It's a K2 eclipse. K2 is the Jyotish word for the South Node. It is a time of release. Now we've had eclipses in Virgo and Pisces over the course of the last few years. We've been learning to release form. We've been learning to release our attachment to how we do things. And we are increasing our ability to work through faith, through our visionary qualities, through seeing what we want to create in our mind, and then releasing our attachment to how it comes to us. This eclipse will be, I believe, the last in that series. So this is a kind of final release of old forms, beginning of March, an increase in our ability to visualize what we want, But I see this one as a release one where if we get too attached to the details, we're going to suffer. So we make your visions, make your vision boards, set your intentions, but then don't dictate terms to the universe as to how those things are going to come into your life. Be open-minded about how the universe meets you halfway. I think that's what I'm seeing in the beginning of March here. Okay, I'm going to flip my pages here in my notes. Let's see here. One thing I neglected to mention in March is we do have the first of our Mercury retrogrades. Okay, so we have a Mercury retrograde at 22 degrees of Pisces. Okay, so 22 Pisces. And that's happening. Let's look at the day that's happening. This is on March the 20th, which is basically Mercury stationing retrograde on the spring equinox. Super fun. So another instance potentially of wanting to make a new start, but maybe having to have some patience around it. Now, one of the things I find interesting about this particular Mercury retrograde is I've been doing some kind of experimental studying / learning into Vedic astrology. And one of the things that they talk about is the potential for a retrograde planet in its fall or in its exaltation acting like its opposite sign. In this case, and keep that in mind for the second half of the year when Saturn retrogrades in its fall, we have Mercury in its fall and exile retrograding with potentially it acting like Mercury in Virgo, its exaltation. So I'd be really curious to see experimentally and experientially with our community here, how do you experience this Mercury retrograde in the water sign of Pisces? Is it acting like a normal Mercury Pisces experience where details get really cloudy, where we're missing appointments and things of that nature, missing details? Or is this Mercury actually helping us to find some of the things that we missed? Is it helping us to organize ourselves in a way that Mercury in Virgo is known for? So really pay attention to that, experiment with it, see if there's something where Mercury is actually bringing you some decent fortune, rather than saying, well, it's in its exile and it's retrograde. That's kind of the worst condition it can be in. Potentially not. We will also see Mercury retrogrades in Cancer and Scorpio in the summer and then in the fall. So this is a watery Mercury retrograde, challenging our belief systems, challenging our memories and emotions. The way that we communicate could be very emotional during these periods of time. Okay, let's keep going. Robin is here. What's up, Robin? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well, my friend. No worries. Corinne, it's nice to see you here. We'll have to catch you the next time, my friend. Okay. Javier says, you said Pisces too many times. It started pouring outside. I called it. I called the rains into existence for you, Javier. Oh, man. Maybe it's just an omen, right? A symbol. All right. When we look at March, I think really some of the big things that I'm seeing in March, if we go forward into, we've got the eclipse, the total lunar full moon eclipse in Virgo, releasing old forms. We've got a new moon mid-month, the 18th in Pisces, final degrees of Pisces. But I really think that the main things I'm seeing in March is we have Venus making a conjunction with Neptune and with Saturn in Aries. This is also when Venus is emerging from the beams. So these Kazimis that we are seeing, you're going to be seeing the manifestations of those seeds that you planted this week in early March, right? We have Mars emerging from the beams the same day that Jupiter is stationing direct around the 10th here. And we have Venus emerging from the beams when it is conjoining Saturn and Neptune in the very early stages of March as well. But I think one of the things I'm really looking forward to in March is Jupiter stationing direct at 15 degrees of Cancer. We just recently had Jupiter released from what is called a malefic enclosure. Malefic enclosure is when Saturn and Mars, the two quote-unquote malefic planets in astrology, ones that are the antithetical to life, that are make things difficult in our lives, potentially. Kind of holding the abundance of Jupiter, the good fortune of Jupiter in check. Well, now Jupiter is released, but Jupiter is still retrograde. I think this moment is going to be really positive with Jupiter stationing direct. It's not under a malefic enclosure or anything of that nature, at least as far as I can tell. Nope. I'm just double checking. And but then now we're going to have an exalted Jupiter direct. Now, the things that I was talking about with Mercury, where it was in its exile and in its fall and retrograde, and talking about it potentially being not as bad as we might originally think, we can also apply that same concept to Jupiter exalted when it was retrograde, being not as good as we were hoping for with Jupiter in Cancer in its exaltation. It might be acting like it's fall in Capricorn. We might be having difficulty getting the resources we need. We might be having difficulty creating this beautiful unconditional love and community. Now, when Jupiter stations direct, though, it's going to be stationing direct in its exaltation. We might be seeing the return of that good fortune. We might be seeing the ability to create all of these wonderful walled gardens that we can grow healthily with one another and create these beautiful communities together. I'm really looking forward to this personally. Jupiter stations direct exactly conjunct my natal sun at 15 degrees Cancer. So I will let you know how that goes. Maybe we'll be creating some new senses of community here on the with Spencer Michaud Astrology, with the channel, with maybe we'll be doing some new classes, things of that nature. We'll see. But this is take a look at your Cancer area of your chart. Know that that's also going to be affecting the Pisces and Sagittarius topics within your life as well. That's a great technique to learn. If you're just learning basic astrology, if you're new to astrology, learn which houses, aka signs, are hosted by which planets. And if you can learn that, and you can learn what the topics of the houses mean, you can see that the planet that is responsible for those signs, Sagittarius and Pisces, the condition of that planet is very important. So if you've been having trouble and struggling in a Pisces topic, in this very arbitrary Leo rising chart on the screen here, the 8th house is shared resources. The 5th house is creativity, children, etc. So 5th and 8th house are being hosted by Jupiter in Cancer, okay, in a Leo rising chart. So Jupiter moving forward and getting into better condition will improve, hopefully, those topics as well. So a really interesting way and an easy way to look at astrology and to understand how things in your life might move forward. Okay, so Jupiter stationing direct in March, okay? Cosmic Rose says, very interesting. Thanks for that thought. Moon, Aquarius, and Saturn in Virgo here. Ooh, this will be an interesting set of eclipses for you, friend. Javier says, that's how Jupiter was with me, retrograde. I have faith that things will turn around. Me too, friend. And having such an important set of Cancerian planets in your chart and having them being angular, Javier, I think it'll be some good fortune for you, my friend. Cosmic Rose says, I'll take it. Crab Sun here too. Hey, I think this could be some good news for us Cancerians, right, Rose? I think that this could be just a time when our energy is really maybe appreciated on the planet. I think that with all of the movement towards isolation, movement towards anger, the movement towards violence, that Cancerian love, compassion, maternal nurturing, we need more of that on the planet right now. And I think that we're going to find ourselves in positions to hopefully provide that to our communities locally or on a larger scale. Take care, K. Wow. Thank you for being here today, friend. Okay, so that's Jupiter stationing direct. The other thing that we see moving forward, we've got Mercury stationing direct end of March around our equinox, our spring equinox. We've got all of those conjunctions with Venus, Neptune, and Saturn in the beginning of March. We've got a Saturn Cazimi that is happening in March, the end of March, on the 25th of March as well. pay attention to what happens when, first of all, when Saturn goes under the beams of the sun. And let me kind of take a look here. When Saturn goes into the beams, we want to look for when Saturn is going within 15 degrees of the sun. I think it might already be pretty close. No, this is going to be in Aquarius season, I believe. Yeah. No, my bad. Pisces season. So around this period of time, early March, we've got Saturn going under the beams of the sun. Right around here. Okay. March 7th or so, Saturn's going under the beams. That means that Saturn becomes invisible. I've standardized this like one of my astrological influences, Demetra George, that she does this in her book, Ancient Astrology in Theory and Practice. And this is a period of time. I'll just put this over. We've got a big Aries conjunction coming at the end of the month. But when Saturn goes under the beams, generally what we will see, and we've seen this happen quite a bit over the course of history, the structures that hold society together will start to break down. This is Saturn going and taking to its sickbed. Okay, so here's Saturn. I'll just, oops, there we go. Here it is right here. This is Saturn taking to its sickbed, getting ready to be renewed in the heart of the sun, like we saw with our Cazimi moments this past week in January, right? So it can feel like we are unmoored. We had Saturn going under the beams of the sun during the January 6th type of energy in 2020, right? Was that 2020? What is time? That was a while ago. But the events at the Capitol building on January 6th, Saturn was going under the beams of the sun. We had a Saturn Cazimi that happened shortly after that, and then Saturn emerged. So sometimes it can feel like the structures are breaking down during this period of time. So pay attention to what's breaking down around that period of time in your own life. And then we get to the Saturn Cazimi that is happening shortly afterwards, where we have in the end of March here, March 24th or so, 25th, March 24th and 25th, Saturn Cazimi, showing us what the new structure is going to be. And then eventually, Saturn will emerge from the beams at 15 degrees of separation, right around, let's see. I think it's when we get into Taurus season. It's a little bit before that. Yeah, right around here. Okay, so this is April 12th or so. April 12th, April 13th. That's when Saturn emerges from under the beams. So that's when we can see the visual representation of that new structure, that new order. A little bit nervous about this one in particular because Saturn is in such a difficult position. To me, this could potentially be the initiation of more challenging laws that don't necessarily serve anybody but the individuals who are making those laws. So pay attention to that. I really do think the beginning of the year gets bumpier before the end of the year potentially gets a little bit better. Let's see. 2021. Thank you. Yeah, it was the January 6th, 2021. So it was after the election. Yeah. Cosmic Rose says Saturn in my chart is my chart ruler with Cap rising. Oh man. That's yeah, so if you have a chart ruler Saturn, probably some pressure in your private life, in your fourth house, right? With Saturn moving into the fourth, with some domestic responsibilities, maybe feeling like you have to make a new start with a living situation or with a family situation, something of that nature. Devin says the most crazy astrology real time was watching Mars move into Taurus on J6 and the crowd just fizzled out. Yeah, that was wild, right? Because Mars lost its energy, lost its power from Aries and went into its exile. So it can be so literal, right? So literal. Okay, so let's keep going. What do you say? Let's talk about that big Aries conjunction that happens in late April. So if we look at April, I'm just kind of giving you an overview. If you know me, this is actually a difficult exercise for me, friends. I have a Virgo stellium, and doing this like zoom out thing. It's just, I'm like, but where's the context? Everything is important, like, so doing this exercise has been like, it's been interesting because I want to zoom in on all these details. I think that they're all interesting and important, but I'm doing my best to give you sort of the bigger picture view. So forgive me if I miss anything, and forgive me if we don't get to every single little thing today. Yeah, I need a stopwatch. I probably do. I do, because I could wax poetic on the tiniest little thing for half an hour. So let's keep going though. We're gonna get this here. So this is, I gotta fix this. Speaking of the stopwatches, this can only be on the ticker for 10 seconds apparently, but I don't want that there. I want it longer than 10 seconds. So we've got our big Aries conjunction the 19th through the 20th. So if you look at this, this is like a giant Aries stellium. You've got the sun in the final degrees, Chiron here, the asteroid, Saturn, Mars, Mercury, and Neptune all hanging out in Aries. The big thing though is we have Mars, Saturn, and Mercury all coming together within a degree of one another. So Saturn-Mars conjunctions can be pretty explosive. So I would take a look at what's happening globally within global conflict situations around this period of time. It may also be a time when you're launching something new within your own life as well. So I hope that for our own sakes, we're launching something that is beneficial for our lives rather than having to deal with something negative. So the other thing that we have going on around this period of time is Uranus is going to be moving into Gemini at the 25th or so, right? So here's the 25th, ingress Uranus into Gemini, April 25th. And we've already had a preview of this in 2025. A lot of the themes that are coming from Uranus and Gemini, a lot of it I attribute to like the rise of the AI and the data centers and different ways of communicating, different ways of utilizing technology. I guess my warning for this, and I did a whole talk on Uranus and Gemini if you want to look back through my archive. I'm with Liz Green on this. Liz Green, she wrote a really amazing book called The Art of Stealing Fire. And she talks a lot about Prometheus. And one of the things that she talks about in that book is the hubris that comes with trying to be like the gods, to try to steal fire from the gods, and the ability for that to get away from us. The ability of that energy, which potentially is trying to be utilized with good intentions in some cases, but then becomes this uncontrollable force of nature. One of the examples she gives is Frankenstein, or Dr. Frankenstein, right? The Frankenstein's monster. And the intentions were to resurrect something from the dead, but it ended up getting away from Dr. Frankenstein. And the same can be true with the types of things that Uranus tries to put its energy and attention towards. AI could be one of these things. The technology that we use to communicate, communications, the way that we are trying to control communications. The other big factor for the entire year is Pluto and Aquarius. Another author I will direct you to with this is Joy Usher. Joy Usher has an excellent way of contextualizing Aquarius placements. She talks about Aquarius and its ruler, its traditional ruler, Saturn, really speaking towards casting only or revealing only the narrative that Saturn wants to reveal, while casting all other narratives into darkness. So this is a sort of a censorship aspect. And we can see the Pluto in Aquarius era has already been, I don't know, it's been contextualized with a lot of attempted censorship over the course of the last, year or two, especially here in the States. So we could see an increase in that, a desire to control narratives. We saw this past week with all of the events in Minnesota that just transpired. An attempt to control the narrative, an attempt to tell us that we didn't see what we saw, right? An attempt to justify state violence against citizens of this country and non-citizens, really, if we're just being honest with it. So pay attention to what your eyes are telling you versus what the attempts to control the narrative are. With Uranus and Gemini, those things could be trying to work together. We have they are trying, Uranus and Pluto, attempts to censorship, communication styles that are really erratic, but also be careful about utilizing technologies without considering the consequences. I know that this isn't always a popular opinion. I tend to be a little bit of a contrarian when it comes to thinking things through before we incorporate them into our lives. I'm a bit of a Luddite, a bit of a slow adapter, but that's because I like to consider the ramifications. And from everything that I've researched and been told, the increase in use of artificial intelligence has significant environmental consequences. And it has consequences towards our own creative abilities, our own rational abilities. Potentially, it has negative consequences for our ability to stay employed. This was one of the things that was part of the reasoning, I think, behind my partner being laid off from her job is many of the tasks that she was very good at, like creating, editing emails, creating newsletters. A lot of those tasks had been replaced by AI, by her boss and whatnot. So a lot of people are losing their jobs due to this, and a lot of communities are seeing these giant data centers being built, and they don't want them. In my home state of Michigan, there are a number, like two handfuls of projects in rural communities where the communities have come together to say, we don't want this. This is going to destroy our infrastructure, our water, our electricity, our plowable farmland, and they don't care. Like, they're just kind of pushing it through. So think about the consequences of the technology that you're using. I guess I will say this. It's easy. It's seductive to take the easy way out. It's seductive to offload your creative abilities, your abilities to work through a process to some kind of system that will make things go faster. I would argue that faster is not always better, that you don't have to be productive with every single second of the day. I will argue in favor of process over results sometimes too, and that part of the beauty of doing something is learning how to overcome obstacles and becoming resilient, especially as an artist. Like, as an artist, just offloading your creativity to some sentence that you type into a prompt is the antithesis of the creative process, in my opinion. I know that there will be some argument that, yes, it's just another tool. I don't think it's the same. I think that going through and learning how to make those mistakes, I think, is part of the creative process. So I guess just really consider the ramifications of the technology that you use with Uranus and Gemini. I know that all of this isn't going away, but how do we become responsible citizens of this planet and utilize these things in ways that won't lead to negative consequences? Okay. All right. Yes. I need to compare and contrast Uranus and Gemini with my natal Mercury conjunct Uranus. It would be an interesting way of looking at it, right? Yes, Arizona is having fun with those centers too. Yes. I mean, this is happening all over the world. Like, I would say that it's just another really, if we look through all of the narratives we've been given with all of this, at the end of the day, I think it's an attempt by wealthy corporations or individuals to push through technology to increase their wealth, and at the expense of the average citizen. And there's even laws that have been attempted to be passed to limit states' rights to make decisions about these data centers that have a real impact on those local communities. So keep your eye on those legal battles that come up, and because America in particular is very heavily invested right now in artificial intelligence, and it's really just a gamble on these data centers being built, on all of this cloud technology and whatnot. I don't know. Again, I think it's all bullshit. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I think that we need to learn how to think for ourselves again, and we need to learn how to do research without some artificial intelligence doing all the legwork for us. I think that it's really going to atrophy our ability to think critically, and I think that the less we can use those things, the better. But your mileage may vary. Rose says abso-freaking-lutely. Yep. Well, there you go. All right. So that's Uranus and Gemini. New technology forms that we have to grapple with and the ethics around it. Okay. If we move forward into May, May is a little bit quieter. The next kind of really big movement is Jupiter into Leo in June. If I'm just looking at May and getting a big picture thought with this, we've got some squares with planets squaring Pluto from Taurus. We have a Mercury cazimi at 23 degrees of Taurus on May 14th. We have Uranus cazimi, which is interesting. Sometimes that could be an important kind of new start for a Uranian type of thing on May 22nd. And then the one big thing I will say in May is we do have planets starting to square the nodes at the bending of the nodes, which can lead to big transitions from decrease to increase or increase to decrease. And then the other thing to keep your eye on at the end of May is we have a Mars-Pluto square from 5 degrees of Taurus to 5 degrees of Aquarius. Those Mars-Pluto squares can be kind of destabilizing. They can be explosive. They can be like eruptive on some level, like volcanic eruption type energy, whether that's metaphorical or literal. And then at the end of the month, on May 28th, there is a Venus-Saturn square from 11 degrees of Cancer to 11 degrees of Aries. So maybe some tension within our relationships as well, or issues related to the feminine principle. Okay, if we go to June, with June, we have Jupiter finally leaving Cancer out of its exaltation, moving into Leo. Okay, moving into Leo. Stephen the Jupiterian stopping in. What's up, Stephen? Nice to see you. Devin says Denmark passed a law that gave every citizen copyright to their image and voice, all personal biometrics. Ooh, I love it. I mean, that's the type of protections that we need in our own country as well, Devin. Especially in like the creative industries, like the Hollywood and things like that. It will be very easy for corporate interest heads of movie studios to take someone's likeness and just create an entire virtual actor from this. So the fact that they're trying to stop us from creating guardrails around this should be very concerning to everyone involved. It's not that the technology itself. I mean, I have a somewhat of a negative opinion of the technology, but there probably are some positive applications. But having no guardrails for that technology, I think, can only end in disaster. Sergey says, if we've learned anything, it's the fact that you're 100% right. U.S. is ultimately ruled by big business interests. 100%. And it always has been. From day one. I mean, this is the other thing too. Like, we've gone through so many different variations of that. We've had so many people attempt to scapegoat vulnerable populations, to create racial divides, to create divides between types of cultural issues. But at the end of the day, all of it is just a huge distraction from wealth inequality, from the people that have resources trying to consolidate and grab more, and trying to take it from the citizens. You can look at any big conflict over the course of the entire history of the United States and bring it back to that issue. So if you can keep that big picture thing in mind, when you look at what leaders are trying to do, you will be able to see through all the other crap. And what do we do about it? Well, there have been periods in history where we have wealth redistribution, Sometimes it comes through revolution. Sometimes it comes through laws that are more equitable. But really, I think holding our leaders accountable, not falling victim and prey to the fear mongering and gaslighting where they try to turn us against each other. That's really how we become powerful against big business and corporate interests, is be strong as a community, as a populace. What was the date of the nodes? We'll get to that in a second, Javier. I've got that on my list. Cosmic Rose says actors have already had that issue with SAG-AFTRA strike. Exactly. So that is another way that the people become empowered, is labor strikes, right? Maybe we are heading towards a general strike. Maybe if our interests aren't being put forward by the powers that be, if our tax dollars aren't being used for the things that will actually benefit us rather than just corporate kleptocracy and warmongering and whatnot, maybe we stop working. We stop doing all the things that actually make those people wealthy. That's what SAG-AFTRA said that they needed to do to maintain their rights. And there might be something like that happens on a bigger scale in other industries as well. Actually, I hope that there is, to be able to return some of that power back to the people. There is something this year, Rose, that speaks to that. The Pluto out of bounds periods in the southern declination talks about returning of power back to the people. So we'll get to that point too. Stephen says, happy heavenly birthday to my aunt that introduced me to astrology and other divination tools. Well, happy birthday, Aunt Stephen, and I hope everything is going well on the other side for you. Have you looked into the influences of Technate of America yet? Very interesting. I have not. Send me some information. I would be happy to look into it, friend. Okay, so Jupiter in Leo, June. We have, I'm just taking a look here, Mercury squared Saturn in June, Mercury squared Neptune from Cancer to Aries. So all of these planets moving into Cancer squaring Saturn could be significant. Mars is going through the bending of the nodes the same day that Jupiter is moving into Leo. We have a new moon in the third decan of Gemini, a full moon in the first decan of Capricorn, excuse me. And then we had a Mercury retrograde in May? No, this was Mercury retrograde. Oh no, Mercury retrograde in June, at the end of June, 26 degrees Cancer, stationing retrograde. So we have our water sign retrograde. Really, it's a similar time as Jupiter's moving into Leo. But the Jupiter in Leo is the bigger aspect to talk about here, because it's moving out. Jupiter's moving out of its exaltation, moving into the sign of the sun. I don't know if there's any particular dignity here in this space. I might have triplicity dignity. Let's take a look at that. I think it's triplicity dignity by the day, but let's look at it. Let's make sure I got the right thing going on here. What's that date? The 30th. Let's keep on going. Keep on going. Big wheels keep on turning. So much information. Okay, so we've got Jupiter here in its own terms in the first degrees of Leo. Potentially, let's see if we go forward again. And we see, do I have a day chart up here? Well, I have a night chart, I think. And if I go back a few hours, does that give us triplicity by the day? Doesn't look like it. Well, neither here nor there. Losing some Jupiter dignity. Jupiter is going to be moving away from the kind of fertile waters of Cancer, moving into the expansion of ego, the ability to shine our light, the ability to become singular points of consciousness. This could be a good time for stepping out into the spotlight. You could feel supported within that. It could bring you good fortune to do so. I think there's also ways where it could inflate our desires to be visible as well. Now, the challenge with this planet moving into Leo is it starts immediately opposing Pluto. So there could be a lot of tension this year with a desire to be visible, a desire to put ourselves out there, but also fear of being visible. I know when you have authoritarian regimes, like sometimes there's a little bit of fear of speaking out or of becoming too visible. I know that's something that I've felt, that I'm like, I don't know if I want to, be too visible to the powers that be with these kind of things. So sometimes we speak in code, or sometimes we have to be very judicious about how we talk about controversial topics. So something to consider with Jupiter moving into Leo. Lauren is here. Painted Turtle says, "Hey Spence, I don't know if I've ever seen you do the whole Astro year before." Well, Lauren, there's probably a reason for it. I think the reason for it is that my Virgo stellium brain feels really overwhelmed by doing this length of time, and there's just so many things happening. But I'm trying to be a good steward of our community here and help prepare you for the year ahead. And yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it's going well and you all are gaining some benefit from it. Cosmic Rose says, "I just followed you on Blue Sky. Can I DM you some info I can DM you some info if you allow." Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd be happy to see that, Cosmic Rose. Appreciate that, friend. Yeah, go follow me over on Blue Sky, Instagram, etc. at Spencer Michaud. That's where you can find me on my social medias. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, that was, Lauren, this was one of the things that I was having trouble with today, is I feel a lot of responsibility for bringing nuance into these conversations. And it's painful for me sometimes to gloss over things and try to take things out of the context of the rest of the chart. So part of the reason why you haven't seen your friendly neighborhood astrologer attempt to do something this large in the past, and another reason why when I do forecasts for people, transit readings, I generally stick to a quarterly transit reading. I don't really super enjoy doing year ahead readings for people because there's just too many things. There's so many things that can change. There's so many circumstances that can change by that period of time. And yes, astrology gives us the language, but one of the things I like doing in my practice, if people want to work with me, I love bringing this knowledge into context. I love being able to ground it in the things we're experiencing within our lives. And to be able to do that in 3-month periods feels much more manageable, right? It could say, this is what I've got in front of me. This is how I can make a plan for these next 3 months. And here's all of the new moons, the full moons, the Time Lord experiences. And yes, we do talk about bigger cycles, but we can get into a lot more grounded detail around it as well. So thank you for your patience, friend. Yeah, too many variables. Exactly, Javier says. And I think that this is a lot of what people come to this channel for, is really looking at things through the microscope and really seeing things in a detailed way. So we'll get through it. We'll get through it. It says that micro Virgo being pulled by the North Node to a larger view in Pisces. True, friend. No lie told there. Sergey says South Node going over Trump's ascendant, then Mars going into will be interesting. It'll be conjunct his Mars right on November 3rd for the midterm elections. Yep. That was something that I just saw and talked with Tanya about a little bit earlier in the day. I was like, oh yeah, we got South Node on Trump's Mars in November. Mercury will be retrograde about to Cazimi the next day. Venus, the ruler of his midheaven, will also be retrograde around that period of time. We'll get there, Sergey. Be patient. You're spoiling all of it for us moving forward. Sergey, you probably don't have the patience for just me doing all these granular things, but I appreciate you being here, friend, and you're definitely spot on. Context is everything. Yep, I agree. Okay. That being said, let's keep going. Let's talk about July. So here we've gotten into July, getting to that halfway point of the year. And before we get into July and this explosive topical thing, take a little stretch break. We've been going for about 90 minutes. Do me a huge favor. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, share it with your friends, hype it up on YouTube if you want. If you want to support the channel in a material fashion, you can do a super chat today while I'm live, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com and support the channel that way. There's a link in the description of this video whenever you're listening to it. Stretch out, get a drink of water, stretch your hips out, shake it out. I'm getting a drink of water. I've got a little bit of this is like a bone broth, like a chicken, almost like a chicken soup. Tanya makes the best bone broths. We've made one out of chicken. We've made one out of duck and turkey. It's amazing. It's good for you. Okay. Stretch it out. Like and subscribe. Go follow me on the social medias. And then buckle in for part 2. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this Mars-Uranus conjunction. One thing I will mention is that this Uranus position is one that historically talks about conflicts for the United States. The United States has Uranus in Gemini, and quite often over the course of history, this country has gotten into international conflicts when Uranus has returned to Gemini. So with Mars hanging out here on the 4th of July, we'll see. We'll see what happens. The leaders of this country have been making a lot of enemies lately through their actions, and we shall see what the repercussions for that might be. I'm a little bit nervous about that. I think that if another country wanted to make a statement, push back on some of the manifest destiny type of things that are happening right now, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to see it happen on the United States birthday. So I don't want to fearmonger with that, but we're in unprecedented times, friends. We're in times that we've kind of really haven't seen before or for a very long time. And we have to be prepared for that. The other thing I will say, just personally with Mars and Uranus, just be very careful about that time period. I would suggest, especially with the way that you communicate, like since it's in Gemini, it could be very easy to have an explosive communication with somebody. This could also be like a big internet outage, something like that. Mars Uranus, a severing or separating. It doesn't have to be like a physical conflict. It could be a cyber attack or something of that nature. I think that even makes more sense to me. I think that losing our interconnectivity through that is a big possibility with Mars and Uranus and Gemini. So just have a backup, have a backup for all of these things. Don't do anything super dangerous that day, right? Try not to push yourself beyond your limits. I think that's I would also say when Mars and if there's one thing that Americans love, and this is not what I love, but Americans love fireworks. And around 4th of July, everyone and their sister is lighting off fireworks in our neighborhood and various neighborhoods. This is the type of aspect where you blow off 3 of your fingers, right? Where you aren't thinking clearly. I have a, bless his heart, I have a neighbor who loves fireworks, and he loves lighting them up in his backyard. And I've witnessed him from my window holding on to like these fireworks and like these Roman candles, just spraying them around while holding on to them in his hand, or taking like a bottle rocket and just holding it and shooting it. So it's the most cliche like American thing ever. But I've had conversations with him like, hey, Beth, like, might want to be careful with that. Please don't aim that at my house. And you might not want to blow off your hand today. So this is something that with that type of aspect, some extra caution could be warranted, I would say. Okay. Taku says, oh, and by July, Chiron is in Taurus too. Good call. Good call. So we've got an asteroid associated with sometimes some painful experiences in the first decan of Taurus. That decade has a lot of worry about scarcity, about finances, so there could be some challenges around that as well. Rose says, liked it on the way. Nice. Appreciate it, friend. Javier had black bean soup for lunch. I hit the spot. Love it. Yes, the U.S. birthday, 7/4 exactly. Dad's birthday. There you go. Lauren says that Mars-Uranus conjunction in July is trine North natal Aquarius South node in the Sibley chart. Natal Uranus is 8 degrees as well. Well, there you go. So contacts with the United States chart. So something potentially unexpected, something kind of explosive, something with severing and separating, which are themes associated with Mars. Yeah. FAFO comes to mind. Yeah, it's yep. And there's so many ways to interpret that. Sapolio is here. It says, how the Mars-Uranus conjunction is on my Venus. Should be fun. Oh my goodness. Well, take it easy that day, friend. Try not to rush into any situations or purchases or things or relationships, right? All right. Okay. Take care, Stephen. Hope everything's going well your way, friend. So yes, as we were talking about, we also have in July the nodes shifting. So we've got that explosive Mars-Uranus conjunction on the United States birthday, which I believe, friends, it is the 250th birthday of the United States. Kind of a big deal, right? Kind of a big milestone, marker, etc. So we'll see. We'll live into the answers. There's a Mercury Cazimi at 20 degrees of Cancer, on July the 12th. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We have the Jupiter opposition to Pluto on July the 20th. And then the North Node moves into Aquarius on the 26th. Okay. And we're getting closer and closer to the big eclipse that's coming in August. The same day, look at this, the same day that the nodes shift, Saturn retrogrades, okay, on the 26th of July to December 10th. So let's talk a little bit about the nodes shifting. All right, so the North Node moving from Pisces into Aquarius, South Node moving from Virgo into Leo. What are we increasing in Aquarius? Well, the nodes move backwards most of the time. They do go direct sometimes, but generally they're moving through the zodiac backwards. So we're going to start with this nodal period in Aquarius 3, not Aquarius 1, which I find kind of interesting. Go to this 26th day, right? You can see now that the nodes, now here are the nodes, 29 degrees Aquarius, 29 Leo. What is increasing? Well, Aquarius is often viewed as a collective sign, one that is less about individual desires and more about the desires of the masses. So there's that. We're seeing an increase in our ability to be objective rather than viewing the world through our subjective lenses and subjective belief systems. We also are potentially seeing an increase in some of the censorship that we talked about, referencing Joy Usher in A Tiny Universe and her take on Saturn and its role as the ruler of Aquarius. So that part of it could be increasing. I think what I really feel, especially about the third 10-degree section of Aquarius, again, it's that frustration energy. It is a decan that speaks towards putting up with something for a long time and then finally just getting so fed up with it that we have to make a change. So there is a little bit of a revolutionary quality in that decan, so that we could be seeing more of that type of energy, more people coming together for a collective purpose. I mean, if you think about the movements we've seen in the United States, the No Kings movement, I can't think of more of a No Kings South Node than Leo, right? So this might be the reduction of that sort of royal power as well. And the South Node is going to be moving over the president's ascendant, Mars, etc., as Sergei was alluding to. So maybe this isn't a reduction in that particular power. We've seen some machinations about Congress in the United States taking back some of the wartime power, which says trying to create the ability to make some of the ability to utilize the American military have to go through a vote in Congress, because the actions that have been taking place over the last few weeks have been taking place without congressional approval. They've just been at the behest of the executive branch, and that presents a problem because of the people that are, well, I don't think it's the will of the people or the will of many people, right? It might be the will of some people, but I think there's a greater faction of people that don't want anything to do with trying to annex countries and take their oil and create more conflict and death and kleptocracy. So there may be movement within that to nerf some of that all-encompassing authoritarian type of power. It also makes sense because Saturn is retrograding the same day. Now, I talked about earlier in the show about the potential of a fallen planet acting exalted. Now, this is a concept that you can look up in Freedom Cole's book, The Science of Light, which is a great instructional manual on Vedic astrology or Jyotisha. And oftentimes in that tradition, they think that a retrograde, fallen, or exalted planet can act like its opposite sign. Well, what's the opposite sign of Saturn in Aries? Saturn in Libra, exalted Saturn. Laws that keep the collective's needs in mind rather than just the desires of one particular individual or small group of people. So seeing those two things happen simultaneously obviously is not a coincidence. It could be, I think, the nerfing of authoritarian power. It could be a return to legislation that is more in service of the collective rather than just individuals. So this is where we start to see the shift in the year. We have that really explosive moment on July 4th, and I think the second part of the year is much more about return of power to the people. And it may take a crazy event happening where people are finally like, enough, right? Enough of this. And there should have been multiple events over the last few years where people said, fuck this, and this is enough. And many people have said that, but it's going to take a massive movement of people saying this is enough and really taking action on that belief and feeling to make a real change. We'll see. It's, like I said, unprecedented times, right? Okay. Lauren says, oh my God, I'm ready for those nodes to change signs. Yeah, it was angular for you, right? That can be challenging. It'd be angular for your fellow Leo rising here. We'll see how it goes, but I'll keep you in the loop. Interesting. I am my mother's daughter. Our moons are conjunct in the third decan Aquarius. Thanks. Oh, there you go. So this will be a big one for you, right? This will be a big shift with having the North Node on your natal moon. Maybe a feeling of wanting to leave a situation that is building in frustration. Stellar rendition is here. Says, "Ugh, my reverse nodal return and hits my Aquarius ascendant immediately upon ingress." Yep, it's my reverse nodal return too, friend, and gonna hit my ascendant. So we'll compare notes from Leo rising to Aquarius rising. What do you say? Okay, so Saturn retrograde, 26th of July to December 10th. Curiously enough, Saturn stations direct the same day that Pluto goes back into bounds. So I'll talk about that in a second. But first, let's talk about these eclipses in Leo and Pisces. So we've got new nodes, North Node in Leo, South Node in Aquarius. And when we have the nodes in different signs, eclipses happen in different signs because the eclipses happen when these lunations, new moon and full moons, are closer to the North and South Node. So let's take a look here. Okay. Let's take a look here. I'm going to let's get this eclipse up here. I think this is a really big eclipse. This is a South Node eclipse in Leo. All right. We have let's see, 6 degrees of Leo. It's the Sun and Jupiter at 6 degrees of Leo. The moon is at 6 degrees of Aquarius. So it is a full moon lunar eclipse close to the south node. So close to the north node, excuse me. So it is a north node Rahu full moon eclipse. The coming of fruition of the big. Let me see if I can narrate this. We have themes with Aquarius 3 with letting go, being frustrated. We have themes with the north node of increasing that. We have themes of a full moon of something coming to a peak. So we have something coming to a head related to the increase of frustration that leads to a release. Do you see what I'm saying here? We also have Jupiter Cazimi that day. So Jupiter's Cazimi planting the new seed for maybe new leadership, maybe hopefully. It might be something of that nature too. So pay attention to what's going on, not only in your own life, but in the collective here. When we are seeing this full moon eclipse happening August 12th, the other thing that's really, I think, synchronous with this eclipse in Leo, Pluto goes out of bounds starting at this eclipse from August the 12th to December the 10th. Pluto out of bounds is a really fascinating exploration historically in revolutions. And there is a great book that's sitting next to me that I would love to engage with once I get through a million other books, but I've thumbed through it. It's called Persephone's Revolution, Pluto's Path to the End of Empire by Rosie Finn. Gray Crawford did a really good interview with her, so I recommend checking that out. But Pluto going out of bounds, we talked about out of bounds planets in the past. Out of bounds basically means that the planet is going outside the normal declination path, the relationship to the ecliptic of the sun. Spiritually, metaphorically, that means that the planet is sort of a maverick. It's working under its own authority. It's not conforming to normal expectations. That can make it a very concentrated energy. Now, Pluto has an energy of bringing up things that have been repressed to be alchemically transformed. When the Pluto planet goes out of bounds in the northern declination above the ecliptic, or maybe below, but depending on your perspective or your hemisphere, that's when authoritarian power gets consolidated. Like we had a Pluto out of bounds series of years around World War II. Like we had the atomic bomb, we had the rise of fascism and all of the experiences of the Holocaust when Pluto was out of bounds, this rise of authoritarian power that was very destructive. It was very intense. When Pluto goes out of bounds in the southern declination, that generally, over the course of history, according to Rosie Finn, coincides with a return of power to the people. Think like French Revolution type energy. That gives me some hope, right? That gives me some hope that at this eclipse, this is a big moment for an increase of power that is more decentralized. The sun is a very centralized force. Aquarius is very decentralized. Think of how things float around in the air. This coinciding with Pluto out of bounds could speak to revolutionary impulses that return power back to the people, that decentralize the authoritarian power. And we're gonna be going through that for months. Now, Pluto is going to be going in and out of bounds for the next 10-ish years. Okay, so this is not just like a one and done thing, but I think we are going to see some movement with that. And for those of you who aren't familiar, we have a midterm election during this period as well, in between this period, where we could see a massive shift from the current regime to something different. And we'll see how that all turns out, right? We'll take a look at election day as well. But I just thought that was really fascinating to see the eclipse happening the exact day that Pluto is moving out of bounds. Yeah, Rosie Finn. Yep, you got it. That's the author of Persephone's Revolution, a great book about the out of bounds Pluto cycles. Rose says, good house vote today. The days are blending together. Are you referring to the the House of Representatives vote where they were voting to limit wartime powers? Yeah, and that is the beginning of this. It still has a ways to go through the Senate for that to become law, and then there has to be a 2/3 majority in the Senate and House, I think, to avoid a veto from the person that they're trying to limit power from. The American political system is so fucked up. It's so stupid. But like, I think that if it doesn't go through now, and if there's an escalation in the rhetoric of annexation of other countries and wealth grabbing and resource grabbing, I think you could see something like that law passing eventually if there's an escalation, like towards the end of the year. Even if it doesn't pass now, that to me would make a lot of sense. Oh yeah, you got this. Is on your ascendant, Sergey. Yep. I'll take hope where I can get it. Me too. And that's again, there's a lot of difficult things going on in the collective right now, a lot of painful things, a lot of unjust things. And that's why I wanted to preface the beginning of this show by saying it's going to start out really bumpy, as it already has. But I do think by the end of the year, there is hope. And the hope isn't just from just looking at the astrology. The hope is also coming from some of the secondary divination that I did that we will get to by the end of the show today too. Okay. So Pluto out of bounds. We talked about that. We have a Mars-Saturn square in September. So here is the Mars-Saturn square. Those are always pretty funky. This one could be especially funky because both of Mars and Saturn are in their exile and fall. They're actually in their fall, excuse me. So Mars is in its fall in Cancer. Saturn's in its fall in Aries. When both of those planets are destabilized by their essential dignity, it could be kind of a really uncomfortable situation. Mars in Cancer, difficulty in domestic situations, difficulty within the family. Mars squaring Saturn in the second decan of Aries, feeling a lot of pressure to make a new start, to be independent, but difficulty breaking away from the family situation, feeling like one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. There's a lot of attention that comes through that. So just keep an eye on that as one of another bumpy patch in the year ahead. Lauren says, Pluto's out of bounds 1940s through the 60s was the Indian Termination Police, essentially assimilation of indigenous Americans, dissolving tribal rights and lands by state. This is something to look for with Uranus in Gemini. Uranus, a partnership with states to enact similar national protocols through local and state government. Well, there you go. And I think Lauren was one of the first people to turn me on to this concept with Pluto out of bounds. And I think actually suggested this book. So Lauren's on top of it here. And we'll keep our eye out for these types of things because it can be really important moments in history. Yeah, Javier, ouch, my Mars in Cancer, better chill out. Yeah, so this would be a square within your 10th and your 7th house. So yeah, be careful around that period of time. Rose says, hope is many of us mother types that never quit. Cap Rising that worked in a hospital code blue team for 20 years too. Well, there you go. Yeah, I love my Capricorn rising friends. My beautiful partner Tanya is a Cap Rising, and Javier is a Cap Rising. We've got a lot of Cap Risings here. I think you guys can be counted on when the shit hits the fan to generally be pretty solid, pretty stable and responsible, and I love that about you. Okay, let's keep going. We're almost there, friends. We've got a couple more things to talk about. The big thing in the fall is this Venus retrograde. So let's go to this Venus retrograde period. And then we will briefly look at election day just so you can get the vibe on that, because that's a big day and for world politics, not just for American politics. But here is Venus retrograde. And 8 degrees Scorpio. retrograding back to 22 degrees Libra from October 3rd to November 13th. This is Venus in its exile in Scorpio, in the first 10-degree section of Scorpio. Okay. A decan associated with the Five of Cups, a decan associated with grief, ritualized grief, with identifying addictions that we have. And it's going to retrograde all the way back to a decan of Libra that's associated with being kind of calm within a chaotic situation, the calm in the middle of the storm. It's really close to a fixed star spica that is very, very beneficial. So I think that this is a retrograde of Venus where we are going to be identifying things that we're attracted to or things that we are addicted to that we want to let go of, like things that aren't healthy for us. And when we station direct, we're going to have a better sense of peace and balance and inner calm by the end of this Venus retrograde. Now, this could also lead to feelings in relationships where we're reviewing our relationships, we're reviewing our desire nature, we're reviewing what we're attracted to, whether it's a person or a thing or a food or a substance. Powerful period of time for Venus in this potential retrograde back to 22 Libra. Now, this is also happening during election season, which is kind of fascinating. So let's go forward to election day and just look at what we're looking at here. This is November 3rd, 2026. Couple things to notice as Sergey was pointing out. Let's bring it up here because this is something that I don't usually like talking about this person that much, but it is significant for the election day and for the ability to have power or not have power. As Sergey was pointing out earlier in the broadcast, the South Node is going to be going over 47's Mars exactly on election day. The moon will be on Regulus at various points in that day. This is early in the day though. Let's make it a little bit later in the day by the end of the day. Yeah, it's going to be moving through Virgo towards the end of the day, right? And we're coming up on a Mercury Cazimi, Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde. Venus is the ruler of 47's midheaven. Okay, so this is his public face. So having a retrograde Venus might not be super positive for that potential position. I do think there will be delays again. I think that there will be people that are trying to cast election results into question. Unfortunately, when you have Mercury retrograde in election season, this is chaos, right? You got Mars that's hanging out in the first house of the president of the United States. We'll have to see, but reduction of martial energy, reduction of fourth house energy for Trump, first house energy, and ninth house, right? Reduction of the legal system, right, associated with that as well. We'll have to see. I don't really like making political predictions. It's not really my wheelhouse. There's a lot of astrologers that are really good at doing that. But I think that just seeing the tenor of the time without it relating to Trump's chart is interesting enough as it is. If we just look at it from the perspective of one chart, you know, you've got South Node in Leo, reducing the centralized power. You have a North Node in Aquarius, increasing decentralization of power. You have a Mercury retrograde that could create some confusion and create some delays. Rose is saying vote early. I would agree with that. Vote as early as you can so that you can get your voice heard and you don't have to stand in lines, and make sure that your ballot gets where it needs to get. Yeah, Sergey says mid-November is even worse for him. Totally could see that happening. I mean, just with my intuition, right? Let me see here. My intuition, and maybe this is a bias. I have my own political bias, so it's hard to detach from that because I'm not a supporter of this president or this regime or any of the actions that they've been taking globally. I have a feeling that there will be pushback. The promises that the administration made, that generally people who genuinely did support him wanted, have not been fulfilled. Some of them have. The scapegoating has been fulfilled, but the lowering of prices, the lowering of the cost of healthcare, the lowering of the cost of groceries, the quality of life things that were promised have not been delivered upon. And that's a pretty good indication of how people will vote. So I do think that there's a huge possibility that there will be a shift in power because people are suffering right now, and everybody's suffering, and it's not divided in party lines. Republicans are suffering, Democrats are suffering, everyone is having affordability issues. There is fear in a lot of communities for people's safety because of the recklessness of the paramilitary force that has been unleashed on various cities. It's something that I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to. And also, I will also say this, even the quote unquote America First people who wanted to increase American isolationism and pull out of these foreign wars, they've got to be pretty upset at this point too, because that's the exact opposite of what's happening right now. We're getting involved in more conflicts. We're getting involved in more international disputes rather than less. So I don't know who. I really don't understand why people would vote for this again, but that's my subjective perspective. There might be some reason that people would, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But as Sergey mentions, there's a lot of things that suggest challenging times through the president's chart. Okay. Painted Turtle says, important to remember this Pluto out of bounds is the power of the people. Indigenous peoples keep strong, and remember the power to hold on is actually yours. Keep eyes on Pluto out of bounds states for the next 10 years. Absolutely. Yeah, and a great point. And one of the things that Rosie mentions in that book is Pluto out of bounds in the South declination is very much about return of power to the people and a return of a decentralization of the autocratic forces. I'm here for it. Rose says, some docs are saying he may only last another 3 to 5 months physically. Better not be weekend at Bernie's. Yeah, we'll see. One thing I'll say about that, Rose, I'm reading a really great book that I highly suggest for everybody. It's called Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein. Money, Gift, and Society in the Age of Transition. And one of the things I'm learning from this is the system as it stands right now encourages people like Donald Trump to be horrible. And this is much, much deeper and greater than one individual. Will it be helpful to maybe, I don't know, cut one of the Hydra's heads off the snake? Maybe. But if you learn anything from the Hydra mythology, 9 more will grow in its place. And the way that you defeat something like that is holding that head or that severed neck up to the light and cauterizing the wound. And to me, that is about shedding light on the belief systems that have created and enabled someone like Donald Trump to come to power and to consolidate power. That doesn't change if he's gone or not. There are still forces that would try to take his place. It has to be a bigger, deeper philosophical change than just getting rid of one person. It has to change within all of us as well, where we start to visualize in a completely different way of relating to one another that isn't based on exploitation, that isn't based on for me to win, you have to lose. For building and baking in winners and losers into the system. We have to enable a system that encourages and incentivizes sharing, that incentivizes community building, that disincentivizes extreme competition to the point where we become cutthroat. Now, I understand that people will say, well, we need a little bit of competition so we don't have like monopolies and things like that. I agree with that. That's what democratic socialism is. You know, it's having enough competition to like grease the wheels of sharing and things of that nature. But I think that this comes through a shift in belief where we don't necessarily have to put our boot on our neighbor to get ahead. And that's going to take a lot of individual change. It's going to take a lot of releasing of our expectations of what a normal, quote unquote, success looks like. It's going to take changing in the way that we utilize our monetary system, the way that our taxes are used. It'll take a building of local communities, a disincentivizing of the increase of corporate power. Now, I know this sounds really idealistic. Maybe it is. But man, what we're doing isn't working. And it hasn't worked for at least a couple hundred years, potentially a couple thousand years. So there has to be a better way forward. It hasn't been like this for the entire history of humanity. There, as Lauren was pointing out, we can take a vision from the indigenous communities that we are sharing this land with, or really this land was stolen from them to live upon. There's a model already there. There's a model with indigenous communities around the world to show how we can live in harmony with each other and with nature. Was there some conflicts between different factions? Yes, there's always going to be a little bit of that. But the extremity of it, it has just increased to a completely untenable point in recent history. And it's getting worse by the day with the consolidation. So yes, 7th generation, yes. Thinking about how our actions affect the next 7 generations. Going back to that thinking. Getting away. Here's another thing that Rose, that we can think about with this. Getting away from the convenience culture, planned obsolescence, getting away from instant gratification. That starts with us. If we say that we are okay with waiting for something, if we say that, you know what, it's not the right season for that right now, if we say, you know what, I want to buy something that is quality, that isn't going to end up in a landfill in a week, and I want everything about that product to be cradle to cradle, right? That everything about it can be returned to the earth when it's done with its utilitarian journey. That starts with us as individuals, as consumers, as whatever, okay? So that's a belief system shift that you can start today embracing and learning more about, as we can as a community. That's what's going to make someone like Donald J. Trump obsolete, because it's so far away from that type of thinking that we don't empower people like that. And believe me, they got people in the bullpen that are ready to take his spot, right? But if the belief system changes, if we as a community desire a completely different way of relating with one another, one that doesn't scapegoat vulnerable populations, whether they're in our own country or others, it might be incredible how amazing and beautiful that could be. He has another book that I like, that I'm excited about. It's called The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. Intuitively, we know that this world's, and this system is fucked up. We know that there's better ways of doing this. So let's get started visualizing and taking small, concrete actions towards that. And it starts with us as individuals as well. Solara says, I've always believed that DJT represented our shadow, those unowned narcissistic characteristics we Americans have sometimes. Absolutely. 100%. It's a projected shadow of our consciousness, right? This country was built on the backs of kleptocracy, slave labor, etc. It was built from taking from others and, destroying people's land and culture. Now, that's not everything that it was built out of, but that was part of the initiation to it. It was built from corporate interests. It was built from, Jamestown corporations building things in their colonies. And if we stop thinking from that, we have to reckon with that. This is our reckoning. And if we don't like what we see, and a lot of us are like, I don't fucking want this at all. We got to deal with that. We got to integrate that. We got to own our own shadow. We got to own our own attachment to instant gratification, our own attachment to, I don't know, this wealth myth. To me, wealth is not how much stuff you have. Wealth is what's the quality of your relationships? What's the quality of your health? What's the quality of your, I don't know, the time that you have and give to others? We need to change our relationship to what wealth actually is. And then we'll start healing from some of this shadow work for sure. Cosmic says, please hold up the book so I could see the author's name. Here you go. Sacred Economics, Money, Gift, and Society in the Age of Transition, the revised edition, which has post-pandemic thoughts from Charles Eisenstein. He's a social philosopher. Here's the other one. The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible by Charles Eisenstein. Here, if you want some more, I got a whole stack. Indigenous Economics, Sustaining Peoples and Their Lands by Ronald L. Trosper. Cradle to Cradle, Remaking the Way That We Make Things, right? This is by William McDonough and Michael Braungart. And really, the thing that started me on this journey were two books that I can't reach right now, but Sand Talk by Tyson Yunkaporta, coming from an indigenous Australian perspective, and Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, which talks about the North American indigenous perspective on coming into alignment with nature. And then her book, The Service Berry, which is about creating a gift culture. I would also recommend The Gift by Lewis Hyde, another book in this way of thinking. I have a whole stack to try to visualize the new way of relating to one another. But give me some time. I'm still learning, and I'm still deprogramming some of the things that I, as well as many people, inherited just by growing up in this culture. And growing up, for me, my personal journey has come from growing up as an only child who really had to rely on his own, individual, isolated self quite a bit, and learning how to open myself up to community and to help and to, being less territorial about space and noise and things like that. That's my own personal journey that I've been working through and making a lot of attempts to work through. Cosmic Rose says, reminds me of The Precious Present. I'll have to check that one out. Sounds good. Javier says, who else made The Apprentice famous but the viewers? I think that's more about reprogramming what viewers want to watch. I mean, there's a lot of change that we can make, but philosophically, it has to start with belief first. It isn't one individual. And this is what I love about Charles Eisenstein's book. He's not placing the blame on one individual like Trump. It doesn't mean that he's not a terrible narcissistic person. It does mean, though, that it's bigger than him. The system enabled him to become that, to rise to power. And we have to change the system by changing our beliefs first, personally and collectively. All right, a couple more things before we wrap for the day. Mars, the end of the year is really punctuated by Mars getting ready to retrograde. So if you look here on the 5th, right after this election, we've got a Mars retrograde that is coming into its shadow period on the 5th. So here's Mars at 20 degrees or so of Leo, and it's going to retrograde back to this point. So it's not going to retrograde until 2027. So that retrograde period is going to be from 10 degrees of Virgo to 20 degrees Leo from January 10th, 2027 to April 1st of 2027. But I do think that we're going to be feeling the energy of like, oh boy, we're going to want to review some of these things moving into the year ahead. So those are the big kind of picture thoughts for 2026. Here's what I will say, friends. You guys know me if you've been here. If you're new, welcome. And I hope that you got some value out of what we've done today. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know that I will try to break down each of these things in great, great detail, in a thoroughness, and try to give some thoughts on all these things. So today we did as big of a picture experience as I can do. And we came in under 3 hours, which is a minor miracle in and of itself. And I think that we will go through it. We'll go through all the details. We'll go through all the new and full moons coming up. We'll go through the astrology of each month. We'll talk about out of bounds planets. We'll talk about retrograde planets. We'll talk about all the aspects. We will talk about it in terms of context as we are living through it. And I hope that you'll join me on this year ahead to be able to contextualize what we're experiencing. Some values that I can put out there if you're vibing with it. I believe in sharing. I believe in creating community. I believe in compassion and kindness. And I'm working through some of my own personal challenges and belief systems around all of those issues. And I'll try to do the best I can to contextualize these things and hopefully, I don't know, lead the way on some level or just be a part of it. And it won't be perfect. We're going to have some times where we're going to be feeling scared. There's going to be times where we're going to be feeling upset and angry, justifiably so. It's going to be times when we're feeling joyful. And we're going to go through all those emotions together as a community. And I'm just so grateful for all of you here today. So thank you so much for hanging out, for all of the beautiful thoughts and reflections on that. I do have a couple more things for you here. I'm just going to look at their Cosmic Rose says, please tell me no Mercury retrograde for November 2028. We'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. I think we've gone far enough into the future here. Let's deal with the present and let's deal with this election and see where we're at. And you can always click ahead. We'll look at it. But thank you, Javier. I appreciate you. And thank you, Rose, here for being here today. Fantabulous today. Thank you for all your insights, and especially you new folks that are coming in and contributing your specific insights and genius into the chat. It's such a blessing to see that. Let's see. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Sergey, for all of your wisdom and insights. Thank you for getting us forward and moving us forward. Couple things. I did do an I-Ching and a hexagram and an animal. The animal is super fascinating. So if you stuck around, let's talk about this one. First of all, the hexagram that I got was number 36, darkening of the light. And it's changing, though, to grace, beauty, adornment. And I want to read this to you because this is probably one of the more hopeful readings that I've had in a while. Okay. So darkening of the light, hexagram 36 translates to eclipse, hiding one's light, brilliance injured, censorship, keeping a low profile, hiding your feelings. The beginning of the year, we might really feel the need to, we're going to be dealing with some darkness, right? It says darkening of the light. In adversity, it is beneficial to persevere. Jack Balkin, in his wonderful book, The Laws of Change, says you might face unfavorable circumstances. You encounter criticism and opposition. Your projects fail to prosper, or those who have control over your life lack confidence in you. Whatever the problem, there is little that you can do about it for the time being. You must wait out the bad times until things take a turn for the better. Because you are currently trapped in a hostile environment, the best strategy right now is to keep a low profile. You must hide your light. If you try to assert yourself, the people who surround you might not be sympathetic and will rebuff you. If you object to your treatment, people will not understand and you may make things even worse for yourself. Instead of protesting, it is better to allow those in your environment to believe that you accept the situation. Someone may be jealous of you or resent you. You may not give them an opportunity. You should not give them an opportunity to harm you. Do not be aggressive and do not call attention to yourself. This is not a time to pick a fight. Conditions are not in your favor right now, and you don't have the resources to prevail. Nevertheless, during this difficult time, you must continue to have faith in yourself. Don't give up just because things aren't going well. As the text says, in times of adversity, it is beneficial to remain steadfast and to persevere. It is a test of your will and of your endurance. You must preserve your inner light, the still small voice within. Do not let the darkness on the outside extinguish the light on the inside, for then there will be nothing left of you when times improve. People and events will surely provoke you, but you must maintain your composure and your emotional compass. Do not let what others say and do cause you to lose heart. You cannot let their ignorance or their bad judgment undermine your self-confidence. They see only a part of the picture. Their values are not your values. And even though things seem rough right now, time has a way of turning present disadvantages into the seeds of later advantage. You will not be down forever. Okay, so this is an interesting changing line. It's the top changing line. It says, not bright, but dark. First he ascends to heaven, then he fell into the earth. The darkening of the light has gone as far as it can. The law of change is in operation. For as soon as the forces of darkness reach their zenith, they begin a precipitous decline. Evil feeds off of good. When the good is fully extinguished, evil has no means of sustenance and inevitably must decline. When disorder has consumed all order, it begins to consume itself. Remember that line. When disorder has consumed all order, it begins to consume itself. Now, that's previewing the animal that we have coming up. The bad times are coming to an end. Power and resources have been misused in the past, but these regrettable practices have now begun to decay and will eventually disintegrate, opening the way now for new possibilities and better days to come. Recognize the seeds of change now emerging in the situation and take heart. There is hope for the future. All right. Pretty positive line from the I-Ching. That's changing to adornment. Hexagram number 22, grace, beauty, persuasion, ornamentation, simplicity, inner beauty. Okay. Adornment brings success as a small thing. It smooths the path of life and makes it bearable. Okay. When adornment becomes the central thing, it can easily become perverted because it is placed above other human values and human needs. Nevertheless, the study of beauty helps us understand the profundity of the world. Through the contemplation of beauty and form, we discover the demands of a particular time and the power of the unchanging. And through attention to how beauty is produced, we apprehend the connections between our outer form and our inner nature. The beauty of fire or of a mountain range is the natural product of these processes that give rise to these things. It is the same in human life. The Book of Changes teaches us that outer beauty should emerge as the natural product of inner beauty. Then adornment is not simply cover or disguise adornment does not simply cover or disguise a person's nature, but becomes its organic expression. In practical terms, this hexagram signifies that you cannot exert a great influence on the situation, but you can have a positive effect in small ways. Behave with tact and consideration to others. For the time being, you must accept such aspects of the situation that you do not like, but you can make progress at the periphery if you act with charm and grace. Work on polishing your appearance and your powers of persuasion. Brush up on your talents. Smooth out the rough edges in your life and in your relationship with others. This is a good time to improve your habits of communication and self-expression. All right. So coming into alignment with beauty and grace. All right. So remember that line I talked about, though. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I appreciate you. Appreciate you on Blue Sky there, Cosmic Rose. It says, whoa, I adore this hexagram. Perfect for all those planets in Capricorn. Absolutely. Underground good thrives. There you go. Keeping the spark of good alive. Sounds like the Wheel of Fortune card is going to turn for the better. I think so too, Sergey. And here I'm going to show you. I've been choosing the animals based on a random number generator lately, and it's led to a lot more interesting mythological animals in this book at the back of the book, which is funny. So the animal I got for this year was I've been practicing this. Jormungandr. The Jormungandr. Now the Jormungandr is a large sea serpent that encircles the world. It is an Ouroboros, right? Remember when I talked about evil starting to consume itself? We got the Jormungandr, which is you could see this giant sea serpent in a great battle with Thor. He was an enemy of Thor, really an enemy of Zeus, right? Thor has connotations with Zeus, so maybe this is sort of the Jupiter-Pluto opposition potentially. But let's read from Animal Frequency, because this is actually pretty hopeful and pretty dynamic, really. Jormungandr. Jormungandr, according to Old Norse mythology, is a huge serpent with large fangs and a flat tail that lives in the ocean surrounding Midgard, the realm of human civilization. It grows to be so huge he can wrap himself in a circle around Midgard and grasp his tail in his mouth. Called an Ouroboros, this is a symbol of cycles, of recreating itself as soon as it's destroyed, similar to the phoenix. Okay, already excited about that. It is said if Jormungandr ever lets go of its tail, the world would end, but it would be reborn again. Thor had several battles with Jormungandr, as they were enemies, and in the last battle they killed each other, bringing on the end of the world, and the land sunk into the sea. Soon thereafter, the land rose up again, and life started over. This animal has talents for change, conviction, cycles, determination, intuition, invisibility, life, mystery, mystical, rebirth, regeneration, silence, spiritual growth, and strength. It has challenges with endings. It can be evasive, with negative attitudes and reclusiveness. When Jormungandr appears, it means to get ready for major positive changes in your life. You may be moving to a new location, starting a new job, or beginning a family. Whatever situation you find yourself in, Jormungandr means that life as you know it will never be the same after the coming events. This is a time to hold on to your faith, positivity, and cheery attitude. While Jormungandr and Thor were enemies and caused the end of the world in mythology, this means that the world as you know it will change so dramatically it will feel as if it has ended. The new world you find yourself in will be filled with love, delight, and spectacular events. This is a time of rebirth, of growth, and of lifting your expectations. Listen to your higher self. Experience the regeneration of your spirituality. Connect with your bliss and joy, and live in happiness and love. Jormungandr means to live your life with conviction. Stand by what you believe in and those you love. Your support means the world to them. Jormungandr warns against stepping back from life and becoming reclusive as you adjust to the changes you'll experience. You can adjust to changes easier when you have support from others. This animal assists you when you need to keep an aura of mystery around yourself. If you have secrets you aren't ready to reveal, or if there are life changes happening to you, but you want to keep them to be a surprise to others, Jormungandr can help keep things quiet. It can also help you to be more determined and resolute as you reach for your goals. If you need to remain hidden in order to uncover information you need, Jormungandr will help you to remain invisible during your search. This animal warns against letting others get under your skin and annoy you. It urges you to keep a positive attitude and warns against allowing negativity to influence you. All will work out. Just hang in there. That's pretty cool. I was pretty shocked when I read through that, especially after doing the hexagram first and seeing the changing line in the hexagram about evil consuming itself. I mean, that's the perfect image for Ouroboros, right? And the other part that it aligns with that hexagram, the darkening of the light, staying hidden for a period of time if we need to, doing things behind the scenes that aren't readily visible right away, but are working towards the good. So keep that spark alive, even if it seems like the world is ending or that we're in Ragnarok. Like, if there is structures that dissolve during this year, and there will be, we can rebuild. We can rebuild better. We can rebuild from a new belief system. We can rebuild from a place of love, a place of community, a place of sharing, of grace, rather than this place of greed, this place of fear, this place of scapegoating. It just gives me a lot of hope. Both of these symbols gave me a lot of hope in a time when there's a lot of darkness on the face of the earth right now. Lauren says Norse mythology consistently calling out and leading the way of Neptune and Saturn and Aries. There you go. Cosmic Rose says my main motto is let the beauty you love be what you do. There you go. I love that too. That critter is not on my totem. There you go. Okay. So Jormungandr. There's a rolling of the R at the end that I can't really do, but I'm trying my best. But the world serpent, consuming its own tail, evil consuming itself. When there is no good left to consume, it'll just consume itself, and we'll be able to build something on the good that comes that's left over. So here's to building something great in 2026, and here's to letting the evil and the corrupt systems crumble beneath us too, and allowing that to happen, and going through those changes gracefully. We might have to make some important changes personally in our collective as well. So I do think that what's on the other side of it is, it's got to be better than this, right? It's got to be better than this. So hang in there, friends. Thank you, KWOW. Here's to making 2026 the best we can. Thanks for everything, Spencer. Appreciate you, friend. All right. All right, my friends. That's what I've got for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for just being a part of the community. You can find me over at spencermichaud.com. Sign up for a reading if you need help throughout 2026. I'd be happy to guide you through it, to make a practical plan, to work through any challenging narratives that you might have that you've inherited, and help us work through it together to create something new and beautiful from it. Also, go find me over at Spencer Michaud on social media, Blue Sky, Instagram, etc. And do me a huge favor too. As we go into 2026, go check out Third Coast Mojo. My beautiful partner, Tanya Andrews, does some great work over there. And a lot of our personal structures have been dissolving, and we're trying to build something new and beautiful over at Third Coast Mojo as well. So thank you, everyone who has supported the work over there. Appreciate you as well. Javier says, I got to send you a photo of Jormungandr battling Thor and Ragnarok. I would love to see it. I've been trying to wrap my head around all of it. It's really cool imagery, especially it's appropriately epic for an entire year's astrology animal, and for the type of astrology we're experiencing in 2026. It's pretty epic, right? But I love that there's that kernel of hope with it. So appreciate you. And thank you, Lauren, for your wisdom as well. Appreciate you. And have a good one, friends. Hang in there. Don't lose hope. Keep your spark of kindness and compassion. Take those small steps around you in your local communities. Do something without thought of return, because it does cycle back around. Do something nice for someone else. You can find purpose within that. You can find purpose in serving others. It really does make you feel great. It brings you a sense of light, of purpose, and of compassion and kindness. It starts with you, and don't wait for it to come to you. Be the initiator of that in your own communities. Reach out to your neighbors. Get to know someone next door to you. Get to know someone in your building. Get to know someone down the street. It starts with you. You can start. All right, friends, have a great one. We'll go on this journey together, and I'll see you the next time, okay? Be safe. Be kind to yourself through the changes. Don't beat yourself up. Be kind to others, and we'll get through it together. Take care, my friends. Peace.